Hello there. You're listening to Oyla, a science podcast for students. We tell stories that make you smarter. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our latest episodes. You can discover even more about science and the world around us in our magazine, so head over to Oyla to check it out.
Toothy, dark blue, 5 feet in length, covered in scales, and even with legs. Have you guessed who this is? None other than our shared great-grandmother. Of course, coelacanths, or the genus Latimeria, are not our direct ancestors, but they are still relatives of beings that first left the seas 385 million years ago and became four-legged terrestrial animals from which we sprung, and these relatives are still alive today. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Oyla podcast. Today, we are discussing our scaly ancestor. On December 22, 1938, floating off the South African coast in the Indian Ocean, fishermen from the Irvin and Jones Company caught an unknown creature. It weighed 188.5 pounds, was about 5 feet in length, dark blue in color, and unabashedly chomped its jaws. This was not just any fish. It had scales, fins, and limbs, or more precisely, rudiments thereof. Moreover, there were 7 of them, 2 on the back, 3 on the belly, and another pair on the head. It should be noted that the local population occasionally caught these creatures and had even come up with a name for them, gombessa, which can be translated as bitterfish. The residents knew that it was nearly inedible. It was consumed due to the belief that its meat helped to cope with malaria symptoms, although it was possible to make something like sandpaper from their extremely strong and bristly scales. So, for the local fishermen, perhaps it was not such a curiosity. Nevertheless, they called the curator of the local East London Museum, Marjorie Courtney Latimer. The museum had a standing arrangement with the fishermen, requesting that they report all unusual findings. Miss Courtney Latimer was an ordinary museum worker, but after a single glance at the creature, she immediately realized that there was something unique in front of her. The animal was like a bridge between a fish and a lizard. She looked through the records and could not find anything similar. Meanwhile, she needed to work quickly. The fish was decomposing in the African heat right in front of her. Miss Courtney Latimer had a hard time persuading a local taxi driver to take the decaying carcass to the museum or to even let her drag it into the car. And then she had to listen to Dr. Bruce Buys, the chairman of the museum, mocking her. To you, all ugly ducklings seem to be swans. Nevertheless, she sent the fish to a taxidermist, sketched an approximate picture of the find, and sent for her friend, ichthyologist J.L.B. Smith, who was in a different city at the time. Smith, who later wrote a book about the fish they discovered, called Old Forelegs, The Story of the Coelacanth, described his feelings upon reading the letter from Miss Courtney Latimer. And then a bomb seemed to burst in my brain, and beyond that sketch and the paper of the letter, I was looking at a series of fishy creatures that flashed up as on a screen. Fishes no longer here, fishes that lived in dim past ages gone, and of which only fragmentary remains in rocks are known. I told myself sternly not to be a fool, but there was something about the sketch that seized on my imagination and told me that this was something far beyond the usual run of fishes in our seas. But that burst happened not only in Smith's brain. At that time, the entire scientific world waited with bated breath. It turned out that the scientists had something more extraordinary on their hands than a dinosaur. It was a living ancestor, believed to have died out about 70 million years ago. In honor of Marjorie Courtney Latimer, Smith named the fish Latimeria. This fish is, of course, not our direct ancestor. Terrestrial vertebrates, also called tetrapods, to which we belong, are closer to the lungfish, an ancient group of fish possessing both lungs and gills. Nevertheless, both the coelacanth and the lungfish come from the same ancestor, and both belong to the same class of lobe-finned fish. Therefore, the zoological sensation of the 20th century, as Latimeria was christened, can be considered our distant relative. Since the birth of the lobe-finned fish 400 million years ago, it has changed, albeit not too dramatically. Its size has increased, its swim bladder is filled not with air but with fat, and the proportions of its body have been modified. Nonetheless, Latimeria resembles our distant forefathers. It does not have a spine, but instead something like a cord, a flexible, elastic rod running along its back, which was the predecessor of our bodies. Also, it has a small appendage at the end of its body, similar to the embryo of the tails seen in amphibians. But most importantly, the coelacanth has the rudiments of limbs, the very ones that helped our ancestors to climb out from the sea onto dry land. The coelacanth is a tropical fish, but that does not mean that it loves sunlight and heat. On the contrary, this fish prefers the depths, from 650 to 2,300 feet, and surfaces to a level of 250 to 330 feet only at night. Coelacanths are predators. Again, look at those teeth. Their diet includes fish and even small sharks. Most of the coelacanth's meals live in underwater crevices and caves where the fish prefers to swim. The animal's mouth structure allows it to move not only the lower jaw but also the upper one, enabling it to efficiently suck in food. The coelacanth can turn upside down and hang in this position for up to 2 minutes. Scientists have found that, in this way, the fish detects weak electric fields caused by contact between living tissues and water at the bottom of the ocean. To do so, old forelegs has special organs called electroreceptors. Interestingly, the fin movement of the Latimeria is similar to that of the extremities of most terrestrial vertebrates. First, the fish simultaneously moves the left thoracic and right ventral fins, and then the right thoracic and left abdominal simultaneously as well. Coelacanths have very long lifespans. They can live to see their 80th and even 100th birthday. They are also ovoviviparous, which means that they do not spawn like most fish that we know, and they do not lay eggs like lizards. Instead, they carry the eggs inside themselves. 13 months after conception, yes, Latimeria pregnancies last even longer than in humans, the young hatch from their eggs.
You've been listening to a podcast brought to you by Oyla, a science magazine for students. Please subscribe and check out our website, Oyla, for more information.